15 minutes each. Our first one is going to be Yolandi, and it'll be, let's pull up something together. Why we are so far behind or something like that. Anyway, she'll be the one that'll be able to excellently answer what the talk is, and I'll get her slides up here real quick.
Just please.
Let's see. How far behind are we?
And this one is in your pocket.
Technology work. There you go. Thank you, Yolandi.
Cool. So yes, hi, I'm Yolandi. And the presentation is how far behind are we really? So from my experience, I've seen a lot of the people in the room is far behind because they don't know where the dinosaur comes from. So that's, that's when you do not have an internet connection and you are on Google Chrome. Google entertains you with this little game that you play while you are offline. My personal high score on this is about 16,000. So yeah, I was disconnected for quite some time. Anyway, so we will be looking at Africa. Now, the thing we have seen, I mean, obviously over the years, is that when we talk about Africa and technology is mentioned, we tend to think that Africa is very far behind, right? You know, the US and Europe are always the leaders in technology and internet and connectivity. So this year I thought, okay, so I want to see how far behind are we really. We don't often look at where we are. We don't compare in a technical way or looking at the numbers to see actually where are we. You know, when you say we're behind, how far behind is that? So having a look at the subsea cables and capacity, I mean, we know that there's lots of activity happening with the subsea cables, right? Now in 2010, we had 30 cables coming to Africa, right? So this is across the whole continent. By 2022, which was last year, we doubled that, where we now have 60 cables coming to Africa from all over. Predicting, and if you add the planned cables that are still coming, we will have around 71 cable systems by 2025 connecting to Africa. That is crazy. That's a lot of cabling coming into the continent, going, you know, taking us places, bringing content into the continent. So if we have a look at the graph, so if you look at the bandwidth growth by the region, you will see the first line there is Africa. So you can see our growth as Africa is way more than the other regions, except for the Middle East. So currently, us in the Middle East are kind of in this battle of developing the internet and the connectivity in our areas. Looking at the international capacity, so for the year of 2021, the overall internet capacity going through the continent in 2021 was 37.8 terabits of traffic. That's a lot, right? Looking back at 2017, which is what, 5 years ago, we were sitting at 7. So in the space of 5 years, all of a sudden there's like 30 terabits of traffic more in the continent. And again, looking at the investment coming in for the subsea cables, bringing in more content and creating that opportunity to connect Africa to more countries and regions. So again, if we look at the map, it looks fantastic. This is from Telegeography, the most recent and most updated map that they have. Currently, as of 2021, it is believed that there is over 1.3 million kilometers of subsea or submarine cables in service globally. Now, to put that in perspective, that is enough cable to go from here to the moon, twice around the moon and back. That's how much cables are in our oceans connecting us. There's a total of 450 submarine cables systems in service around the world. And some are quite short, so the shortest one being 131 kilometers, and that is between Ireland and the United Kingdom. Now, as we know, To Africa is coming. It's making its way around Africa, and this will be the longest subsea cable to exist. So it's going to be 45,000 kilometers. It connects 33 countries from 3 continents. Now that is massive. And again, we in Africa, we are very excited for this, because what that means is with all the cables coming into Africa connecting us more, that brings down the cost of layer 2. As we know, there are many reasons why the layer 2 costs are so high in Africa, but we're hoping to see that with all these cables coming in and countries having more options on how to connect, it will bring down the cost as it's becoming a more competitive market. Prices continue to decline. Again, coming back to there's more options for countries or networks to connect this. No longer are you stuck with one carrier or subsea cable. So we've seen that the prices are going down. What we've seen is 100 gigabits wavelength prices decreased on an average of 12% between 2018 and 2021. That's compared to a 20% over the past 5 years. So already we can see over the past 5 years, it has decreased by 20%. Now imagine we just said that by 2025, there will be 71 cables connecting us. What does that mean? Like, how much more will the prices decrease? That's just going to bring more opportunity for connection and investment in Africa. The 2022 Digital Quality of Life Index, so this is a study on the quality of digital well-being across 117 countries, found that South Africa's internet quality remains the best in Africa. So well done, guys. We got there, we're on the list. So looking at, with a penetration rate of 51% of the total population of the country, so that means 51% of the whole of Africa is connected to the internet, so currently using it, whether it be by mobile, by laptop, by however, they are using the internet. So Nigeria is one of the leading countries, as we know, with the highest number of internet users, and interestingly enough, Egypt ranks second in the number of internet users. That personally I did not expect to see. The penetration rate of countries like South Africa, Kenya, and Tanzania is more than 30%. So we're there, but not really there. So we're getting there, guys. Now looking at some stats found from Afrinex, so if we have a look at the total ASNs that were available in the whole of Africa in 2013, there was 132. This is across the whole continent. We had 132 networks that had ASNs available to be able to peer at internet exchanges. Now looking at 2023, we have a total of 2,257 ASNs across the whole continent. So as you can see from 2013, it was kind of evenly spread where these ASNs are allocated to. By 2023, as you can see, some of the regions are a bit more darker, South Africa being the most dense in terms of the amount of ASNs allocated. And again, Nigeria also coming up, and we know Kenya as well. So there's still a good growth in allocations of ASNs. That means that there is a need to peer, to exchange traffic, and to bring more content to Africa. Now, I just want to point out how cute my little dinosaur is here, because he's growing. So looking at the capacity growth, the peering capacity growth, as mentioned, we just said that there has been a significant growth in the amount of ASNs that have been allocated in the past 10 years, and we anticipate to see more. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail in all the other columns here, but I can just focus on Africa here. And what we can see is if we compare 2013 to 2023, there's over 1,000% growth in terms of members, so people peering, in terms of networks peering. So that is fantastic. I mean, what is that going to look like in the next 5 years? Again, going back to the amount of subsea cables coming in, the amount of networks investing in Africa, bringing POPs and edges and deployments to us. So it's very exciting to see this. Personally, I don't think it's going to be as significant, but it's going to be a steadily growth. Now, the average of internet download speeds in sub-Saharan Africa was highest in Rwanda, South Africa, and Madagascar, where in Rwanda it was 52.17 megabits per second, South Africa 28.62, so guys, you need to up your game. We need to get there. And then in Madagascar, 19.26 megabits per second. So very interesting stats, again, looking at the different countries. Then in terms of internet penetration, so we talked about Egypt and Nigeria having the most internet or the highest internet penetration. Currently, South Sudan has 10.9% and Somalia 13.7%. So these are the two African countries with the lowest internet penetration rate. And then despite the rising number of users, the internet penetration rate for Africa as a whole is 43% in 2021, below the global average of 66%. So slowly we are getting to the global average, we are getting there. Morocco, so again, a statistic I did not expect to see is that Morocco has the highest internet penetration rate, reaching 88% penetration rate. That is fantastic. So that means 88% of Morocco's population has access to the internet. They are actually using it. So that is quite good. As of 2022, the share of the total population of South Africa using the internet was nearly 80%. So again, guys, we are getting there. So we're just behind Morocco in terms of the population having access to the internet. In 2021, roughly 13% of internet users worldwide were located in Africa. Now, 13% might not sound a lot, but looking at the amount of people globally, that's actually a lot of people connected to the internet. And again, it shows that we are not that far behind. We still have a good number of users in Africa. Now, what are the challenges? I mean, this gets discussed all the time, and it's well known. Currently, Africa is well known, very well known, for its unstable power supply, which, it has an impact on networks, data centers, and as well as the decision for big networks to put down their deployments, to deploy a POP, So this has become one of the most focused challenges in recent months, I would say, where we are focusing on how are we going to keep the internet running in this time of instability in power. Political restrictions. So I mean, each country has its own restrictions, rules, and policies around how to connect, where to connect, and how, when to do it. So Africa is well known for that, and that is also a big challenge. In earlier years where you had no choice, you could only use one carrier or only one network, you had no choice to do so. Higher layer 2 connectivity costs. So again, we mentioned this, it is quite expensive to connect in Africa, but hopefully with the subsea cables coming in, it's giving us a choice of where and how we want to connect. So we are anticipating to see that the costs will come down. As we mentioned, over the past 5 years, there was a 20% decrease, and we're hoping to see more as we go along. Poor infrastructure and the control that telecommunication operators have over consumer rates are among the leading causes of Africa's high data costs. This we know. It's expensive to have data. So again, there's a lot of initiatives and projects going on in the industry to try and get the data costs down. So with all of this said, I think we are not that far behind, and I think if you look at the numbers, we are there, we are getting there, and we are being noticed by other countries wanting to bring the internet to Africa. So in conclusion, please cut the internet dino some slack. He is doing the best he can to keep us connected. And that's it.
Thank you, Yolandi. So as a lightning talk, we're running a little bit behind on the time, so if you have questions and comments, let's go ahead and catch her during lunch on that. Next up, I believe, is Mark.
John?
Yes.
Please use the microphone because people can't hear me.
Sorry about that. Next up will be Mark.